men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. And so he did. Again, and again, and again, and again. And he wishes he didn't. Countless hours spent staring, thinking, mulling over events and faces, names, and places.
I'm caught in an all-shredding cloud, spewing dust, grit, copper, and flame. No noise, just a punch in the guts that lifts me, then changes its mind and drops me unscathed.
Zip, snap, snap, hey. Single rounds fired with calculated deliberation by man, much like myself. Focus only on control of his breathing wall. He draws the beat of my head. A sweaty finger tears up the slack of the trigger.
A thump on my head from a rifleman riding top cover behind me. A target indication. Muzzle flashes 3 o'clock.
Lines of green tracer arc towards me, zipping and buzzing like demented bees. Where I crouch in a low open cupola.
I feel again that self-loathing sense of uselessness as my GPMG burps, grunts, and jams, choking on the cloying convoy dust, willing to only spit out one shot at a time as raw red fingers grapple with the red-hot gas plug.
Looking down at my hands now, I feel again the warm, slippery sensation as I rip and wrench through tattered clothing to apply tourniquets. And with fingers and fists to punch, push through ripped clothing to apply hemlock. I feel the lack of silence in my hands, as there once was a man, as he lies there in a sealed plastic bag under a Union flag.
I feel my breath catch in a silent hugging embrace where men cry and clinch and hold and search each other's eyes for meaning. I hear the melancholic bugle providing formality and ceremonial approval. And then a verse from Abide With Me, carried on an evening breeze.
I see the crumbling, fizzing brickwork of a tracer-riddled minaret. White burning car, the burning steering wheel, joined by welded burning hands to a blackened burning body. The eviscerating flash of a UGL grenade as it hits its mark. And 3 men are reduced to smoldering lumps. Smudged smears of dark red on boots, and trouser legs, and hands and faces.
And the rusty brown encrusted metal left under fingernail, even after washing. Damp spot. What is there? How can I eat with these hands?
Names. Names. Some ready, at the tip of my tongue. Some permanently reverberating between my ears. Some, I struggle to recall. Some attached to faces. And some I didn't know until afterwards.
Too many faces, too many names.
In places. Always hot, always sticky, always dusty.
Sometimes daylight, sometimes night. An alley, a junction, a mosquito-plagued ditch.
A front room, a stairwell, a rooftop, a shrapnel-riddled portaloo, a briefing room, a cook's house, my bed.
Some more easily recalled than others. Some accompanied by sounds. Radio chatter, armored tracks, deep thumping bangs, staccato orders.
Whistles and whines of rockets or mortars and speakers blasting out mid-terror. The belch and rattle, the machine gun prattle, the whiz and ping and zipping, zapping molten metal.
And the tastes and smells. Oh, the acrid, searing smells.
Cordite.
The salt from sweat and dust and human waste and rotting vegetables.
Diesel.
Cigarette smoke. Iron. Burning plastic.
A catalog of frozen tableaus and sensory collages. But where did the laughter go? Where are the fond remembrances? Are these the stories to tell with advantages? Where are my friends that I whooped and lived with? We laughed through these events. We cried through these events. We drank tea and played chess. We loved. I lived.
I lived.
I lived.
Why does all that this remember?
When I graduated from high school, I originally had not planned to attend college. I was always interested in airplanes, so it seemed a good idea to join the Air National Guard. I became a jet mechanic. The Guard at the time was located at Logan Airport in East Boston. Logan was built on the ocean. My father was one of the civil engineers that surveyed and laid out Logan as we know it today. He took me to work one day when I was about 6 years old, and he put me up on the wing of one of the then Army Air Force National Guard Grumman Wildcats. I was hooked on airplanes from that day on, so joining the Air National Guard was a natural thing to do as a 17-year-old fresh out of high school. I later went to college and transferred over to the Marines and went to OCS. I was subsequently commissioned as second lieutenant. I learned in OCS that by focusing on your goal, working hard, and never giving up, you can endure all kinds of hardships. And your mental outlook was even more important than your physical abilities. I have no regrets about being an airman and later a Marine. It was mostly a positive experience. I made some very good lifelong friends in the Corps, with whom I am still in touch with, and with whom we share a special bond of serving together as U.S. Marines. I will always remember the pride I felt after just being commissioned as second lieutenant in the Marine Corps, in my dress whites, when I received my first salute by the sentry at the Charlestown Navy Yard, and as tradition, handing him a silver dollar as the first Marine to salute me as a newly commissioned officer of the Marines. Former First Lieutenant, U.S. Marine Corps, Sozio.
Have you ever killed anyone? They asked, with innocent naivety of youth. What do you think? I replied, smiling quietly. Indeed, what is the truth? Have I ever killed anyone? Let's think. In the dark and dusty neon-tinted screens of browser, I shot at men who shot at me. But did my own fizz tracer beat that of those who fired faster? I doubt anyone can see. Have I ever killed anyone? I certainly played a part causing their demise by giving the order for air to drop. The enemy, portrayed in sepia tones through godlike eyes, saw death's shadow as time stopped. Have I ever killed a man? I cheered as the screen flashed, then the show of hollow smoke. I grinned and reported, good strike. More sepia men ran, then froze. Muted cries were choked as they started in silent flight. Have I ever killed a man? I've called for artillery and support, and AH and air-to-pound Afghan compounds ahead. But God only knows how many lived or died up there. They're quick to recover their dead. Have I ever killed a man? How about in Matan, where the imam wept tears of gratitude as we provided medical support? His son was killed by a mortar when militia attacks renewed in response to murder. Have I ever killed a man? The man who died beside me. Through my orders, plans, and commands, was I not responsible for them? But could I have changed the outcome? Was this not the enemy's hands? I know not who the dead would blame. Have you ever killed anyone, they asked? Not imagining the process they triggered. Yes, I suppose I have. I think. Do your work, I say quietly. That's hardly relevant here.
The absolutely most important thing I ever learned was the true value of a loving and caring wife. My military career, though eventful, was empty in many aspects without her at my side. I could not ever have done it as easily or at all without her support 24/7. It was always there. The best friend I made in the service was hands down my wife of over 40 years. She personifies words like friend, companion, wife, mother, and many more. Funny thing I learned was that it seemed every time I advanced in rank, my wife advanced further. Still haven't figured that one out yet. Well, oh well. My family and I had a hard time coping with military separations, and they are still a problem today after being discharged for 24 years ago. Things today are much easier in the way of communication. There weren't things on phones such as call waiting, texting, or instant messaging. It would take as much as 30 days to get answers to questions from snail mail, at sea no less. Many times the mail wouldn't leave the ship for weeks, only to watch it sink to the bottom of the ocean due to rough seas or a line break. Imagine, if you will, missing years of birthdays and Christmases and Thanksgivings and pretty much everything you and your family hold dear. Only to see the disrespect of people when you are on leave or discharged. I am totally grateful and touched every time I see my grandchildren and thank a vet for their service. I feel every service wife deserves the same accolades. I can't thank my daughter enough for instilling in her children. She herself was born in a Navy hospital, complete with roaches in drawers and mice running free in the hallways. Those are a few of the things that I wished I did not have to encounter with my family. Now, don't get me started. There were many a wondrous view or places to go that it would have been more enjoyable to see if the family could have been along. Dennis A. Wood, U.S. Navy, retired, Foxborough.
Made myself hollow again. Life, love, phone contract paused, on hold. Forgotten battles regained definition as day-to-day worries tick-tock into sepia thoughts of old. I'm thirsty for the forthcoming chapters. New tales to trade for backslaps and beer. Yarns rich in adventure, hinting at bravery. Will mask my soul's disgrace and despair as pallid ghosts of friends perch on bar stools while their technicolor doppelgangers rent dustily from pictures on shelves. For now, valiant thoughts of tragic grandeur. Allow my fears to be suppressed and sealed. Left, 3 brown envelopes. In parade ground precision.
The U.S. Navy destroyer is now and has always been considered the backbone of the fleet due to its versatility. It can only be sent on any mission, big or small, in peacetime or during hostilities. I can recall missions of saving people from a burning cabin cruiser in Newport Bay, Newport, Rhode Island. We rescued one man floating on the roof of a yacht about 50 to 100 miles off the coast, who had watched his friend get eaten by sharks, and numerous burials at sea details. One such detail involved a sea burial of a World War II veteran. When the ship got to the burial site, and after the full military honors were rendered, the burial wreath and family flowers were cast upon the water. When the casket was tipped over the side of the ship and slid beneath the waves, 2 dolphins appeared out of nowhere and swam circles around the casket as if it descended to its final resting place of an old sailor. There was not a dry eye to be found from family and crew members alike. It has always been the most beautiful funeral I've ever seen. Dennis A. Wood, U.S. Navy, retired, Foxborough.
Strange seeing you like this. I know you're not actually. Even that last time that I saw you, held you, carried you. You were not actually there. The time before that, you waved. You grinned as you shouldered your pack. Good luck, mate. Well, go carefully. I never thought you wouldn't come back. This hewn marble over your head tells me a little about you. I can read that you were a beloved son, brother, friend. I can read your name, your rank, and your age. I'm older than you now. It's strange. You are more than the sum of all these parts. You are you. You. You are you. You were there in the moments of life when all is good. You kept good company, and you still do. And you'll live on in all whose lives you touched, and we love you.
The hardest part of being in the military was having to deal with the disgraceful actions of a large part of the civilian population and our government, and the way they treated the men and women in uniform who served during the Vietnam War. 50,000 plus military died. Who knows how many seriously injured, physically and mentally in that war. They were treated like outcasts during and after the war, spit on and jeered. I was lucky I never had a shot fired at me in anger, nor did I serve in Vietnam, even though I was in the Marines during the first few years of the war. The people who served in Vietnam deserve the respect and support of all Americans, regardless of their feelings towards the war. As I stated, I was lucky that I didn't have to endure firsthand the horrors of that war. But when I think about the treatment of how the vets were treated, it still makes me angry. Al Sozio, USMC, retired, Foxborough.
This is where we reconciled. This sandbag nest we shared. Wrapped crudely in a dusty net and raised above a prehistoric land littered with reminders of violent, chaotic instants. Like short, snarled sentences punctuating the long, anxious chapters of waiting. Brass cases, expelled in acrid, heated rage. Now lying cool beside the crushed remains of lazily smoked cigarettes. Oh, hindsight. A moment is never truly important until it is beyond the reach of our too late learning grasp. That conversation